keep centering within you, alive while we're away. Goodbye, good luck, I miss you. Remember me, Whistler.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Hole in the World, an Invisible Sun actual play by us, Manapot Studios. I am Zach, your humble GM/producer, as always. I use he, him pronouns. I'm also otherwise known as the Great Zamino all over the interwebs. And I'm just so grateful. I'm pleased as punch because I think this is probably the finale of part 2 of The Hole in the World. Which means that if you're watching this, we will probably come back later with some interesting side scenes over the next couple of months, followed by a return to part 3. So look forward to that. But most of all, I am enthused and really grateful to be back with my favorite people, my favorite cast. And I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with Marcy.
It's me. I'm Marcy still, currently ongoing in perpetuity. I'm also Experimental Madness most places around the internet. And I am back as usual playing Gabrielle, the iconoclastic ardent apostate who hosts a choir.
Excellent. And moving down the overlay, Bill, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bill. Can be found on Discord under the handle Ghost Bike, and I am playing Maurice Webb. I lost it. I thought I could do it. The hubris. I am a stalwart empath of the Order of Weavers who turns tales into reality.
We've only been playing this game for how many years?
Moving over to the other side of the overlay, Hopper, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hey, still me, still Hopper. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a professional arborist and game master based out of Brooklyn, New York. And like me, my character contains multitudes. But unfortunate, questionable multitudes. But tonight I will be playing, or starting off at least, as Twig, the mendicant gallant apostate who heralds beginnings.
Excellent. And finally, last but most certainly not least, Marissa, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Why, thank you, Zach. I think I will. Hi, my name is Marissa. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an editor of books, TTRPGs, and video games, also known as Critical Kitten most places on the internet, with a variety of punctuation depending on who had my username before me. And I play Kyrrie von Hollingsworth, who is the first assistant librarian of the Order of the Vance. She is an aromatic stoic who understands the words, guardian of Zaleska's grimoire, curator of King Nine's library, maven of mirrors, and most recently, defunct magical caster who maybe has anger to spell?
Could be. It's serious business over here. So thank you everyone for your fine introductions, and now it is time for me to do a recap of my own. But of course, in order to do this, we need something a little bit familiar, something that we're all used to hearing, and that will be our original theme by Kai Engel. When last we left our Vizsla, they had quite literally put back together the face of her elegance, the mistress of the Melodious Manor. With her reconstituted, they had requested her help opening the door to the heart of her manor, which had been dominated by Avenant, a Vespertine agent. She was able to open this door by using Gav as a magical conduit, but not without both Kyrrie and Gav feeling a shared tug inside the seeds of truth they both bore. With the way opened, they encountered Avenant discussing a grand plan with a reflection of Marlowe Anvers, a powerful Vance and agent of the Vespertine, while standing over the bodies of 4 prostrate Elderbren. Avenant and Marlowe seemed to be siphoning something magically from these creatures of the Gold Sun, and the Vizsla engaged the former in battle to stop this terrible process. In combat, they discovered Avenant possessed the power of metamorphosis, which Gav, Maurice, and Twig met head-on, while Kyrrie worked to free the drained Elderbren and to confront Marlowe himself. Severing a magical tendril with a cursed dagger, Kyrrie found herself spell-shocked by the Vespertine siphon, triggering a change in her appearance that only Gabrielle could see. In response, Marlowe reached out to grab and abscond with her, but not before being repelled by a shot from Fortinbras, which did very little damage to the corrupt Vance. Avenant soon succumbed to wounds inflicted by the Vizsla, and Kyrrie attempted one last ditch spell against Marlowe before he shattered the looking glass portal behind him. In that moment, Kyrrie's spell failed, and the party rested to recover and to lick their wounds. They quickly found the Eldrin they rescued unable to change their forms, causing everyone distress. Later that night, Kyrrie drifted into slumber and encountered a vision of Nathaniel, her former partner in the Grey Sun. This vision was quickly replaced by the form of an irate spell, the same one that Kyrrie was unable to cast against Marlowe. We now return to that moment. And I am going to change the music. Kyrrie, you find yourself looking directly in the face of a green flaming spell, essentially kind of heat energy radiating off of it. And it's strange. It seems to have almost a tangible physical form, one that has been metamorphosed from Nathaniel's from behind, whom you saw from behind as you entered into, in this dreamscape, Allegra's mind palace. And it is confronting you, questioning your audacity to try to wield it. What do you do?
I think Kyrrie is taken aback. First and foremost, this is not something she's had to deal with before. I feel like her exchanges with spells have always been very neutral, or sort of, even if she ever felt a pressure or a sense of generally like needing to resolve something, it's always resolved in the casting. She's never had a spell speak to her, at least not quite in this way. And so I think she's a little flabbergasted, but takes a step into the room. I'm sorry. I didn't mean...
Sorry.
Oh.
She's sorry, and it begins to step menacingly towards you.
I think Kyrrie puts her hands up. Look, you're here. Clearly you want to talk about this. I'm here to do that if you want. But know that I don't know what's going on. I lack answers. If you know something I don't, Veranda.
Go ahead and roll. Your target is against the level of the spell.
Ooh, I like that. All right. So, Veranda, one of my old, faithful, lovely spells.
If you would like, you can read the text of that spell as
Yes, let's do that. Veranda, it's a general spell, so not even a Vancian spell. It's level 4, plus 1 die. One nearby being can no longer perform one specific action that I name. In the case of this spell, the specificity is important. Make melee attacks, cast spells, speak or move from where they stand are all viable actions to name. Take offensive actions, breathe, think, or move a muscle are all too broad. There's a depletion check each round, and the color is blue.
Excellent. Yeah, I was going to say, I think in this case, pardon me, that green energy is actually blue. My apologies. I
Green,
misheard
blue, it.
Somewhere
Little
on
bit
the
of
RGB spectrum, right?
It's a nice like peacock green. It goes between.
There we go.
All right, let's roll. That's a 7.
It kind of hesitates for a moment as you kind of throw up your hands kind of defensively and begin kind of speaking, trying to allay it, or kind of like remediate the situation. And it looks and says, "Ignorance is no excuse."
You accuse me of ignorance. Well, then inform me, please. I'm a Vance, you know that.
And it kind of make me one more interaction roll.
Yeah, I think I will add an interaction bene to this one. Oh, and I'm glad I did, because that's a 4. 5 with the extra bene.
inclines its head at you as it looks at you, this kind of being of pure blue energy, as if it's studying you. You realize did that the moment you said it, you were a Vance. And at which point it looks at you and says, "What care I for Vance?"
You make a valid point. My order is we learn about you. We partner with you. We study you. And together we make beautiful things in reality.
Oh, but if only I would observe your caste system, I'm sure. And it is kind of looking at you and it bows derisively. I'd like you to make a perception roll.
Ooh, gladly. That's a 9.
Something is swirling in the air behind it. And as this kind of form, it begins kind of coalescing into a shape. It's almost like a heat shimmer in the air, and as the air shimmers and around this form, the vision that you have of Allegra's mind palace is beginning to kind of bleed and fade away, almost like watercolor, as strands of color begin filling your vision, and the landscape around you is changing from something that is familiar to something strange and kaleidoscopic. What do you do kind of seeing this? And it's bowing derisively, but it isn't seeming to take any kind of offensive action against you. You still have its attention.
Yeah, I think Kyrrie, as the sort of structure of the Mind Palace disintegrates around her, is this would she know that this is the noosphere around her?
I will say with that, this... You know what? You have heard tell of the noosphere. You have seen Allegra's studies of the noosphere, essentially kind of like a realm of pure information. This is not that.
Interesting.
Noosphere is more of kind of like a collective construct formed by subconsciousness, yoked by will. This seems more raw, more almost... I would say tempestuous, as you see kind of like colors blending. I will give you can make me a magical lore roll, but this is informal lore. This is more like, I will say you can either make a magical lore or you can make an intellect roll without magical lore.
Sure. Okay. Let's do intellect roll. I think that's probably what Kyrrie would bring to bear on the current situation.
Okay.
See how that goes. I kid you not, it's a 9 again. This is a nice die. Good job, little die.
As you are studying around you, you realize that where you are is not anything you've ever heard described with actual evocative detail. No Vance has ever seen this place, but you get the sense of what it is. You are inside the current of magic. As you kind of, you look around and you see this kind of like, you just feel almost energized. There's no landscape here. It's almost like being inside the cosmos, inside constellations, as the vision around you changes and your form is kind of illuminated by different colors, one after the other.
I think Kyrie's eyes go wide at this. I think up until this point, she had sort of assumed, based on the fact that a mind palace connects to the noosphere, and so that's how it works from a mechanical perspective. But something about this spell sort of disrupting, bringing the mind palace out of that space, or even just giving her the illusion of that space when she was never in it at all. I think she looks up at Veranda with these wide eyes, and What is this? Where am I?
And Veranda looks at you and says, someplace you are surely not meant to be. And it kind of looks to you to open its mouth as it says, you may not speak. At which point a hand in that form coalesces and grabs it by the shoulder. And you see a form that is somewhat familiar to you. It is the form of a man with a bald head and a long, kind of very kempt beard that comes down and around, and he's wearing a very ornate robe that once again is very familiar to you. And in fact, you cannot miss who this figure is. This is the spitting image of Orad Omanestes, one of the founders of the Vancian Order.
Oh boy.
Orad, his hand, this figure kind of has grasped Veranda and addresses it. I think you had best be getting along. And the spell wheels to turn and confront, and it shrinks at the sight of Orad, who has this incredibly kind of passive, impassive kind of expression on his face. But even here, now that he is kind of coalesced, you feel radiating off of him powerful energy. And Veranda shrinks away and begins kind of walking further away, backing away with both of you in its field of vision, and says, "This is not overcasted one."
I think Kyrrie, she almost, like, in that way that when you wake up from a dream, you reach back into it to try to keep it, to try to stay in that place. Her first instinct is to cast Vitanda, to keep Vitanda there. And she has a moment where she realizes, no, this is Vitanda. This is magic. You can't cast something you're speaking to. And it's interesting. She feels at one very strangely like at home, in a way that, you know, she's been a part of the campus. She's been, you know, under those auspices in Saturnine, but she's never really had a home. Even her neighborhood in Saturnine is really just the campus. I think here she feels, for the first time, at one with everything around her. Like, this is a place where she belongs. And she doesn't know why, but there's this pull deep down.
And yeah, I think you're in this reverie. Sorry, I think I cut you off there. What were you going to say?
No, nothing. Just that I think she like looks between Orad and Vitanda and then her own hands, and I must be dreaming. I must be dreaming. I must be dreaming.
And Orad's form looks at you and says, "There's not many Vance that have made it to this place, but I assure you it is real."
Are you really Orad?
I am what he left us.
Wow. I think she does the only thing she knows that she has, sort of like as a programmed, like, what do you do in the presence of the founder of your order, maybe, or like part of them, or their residual. She curtsies, because I think that's what she has, is like this is how to show respect.
And as you kind of move to curtsy, a gentle hand extends and kind of finds your palm with his and kind of lifts you up, says, "No."
But you made this. You made everything.
I am not who you think I am.
Then who are you?
I am Orod's sacrifice. And as he says that, you realize how his form kind of shimmered without color. And you have heard tell of the day when powerful Vancian magic tore a massive disaster through the city of Satyrine, such that the co-founders had been friendly rivals, of whom Orod was one, and his opposite cast a spell so devastating that he had no choice but to cast a spell of even greater magnitude to repair that at the cost of his life. And there was no telling where he went afterwards. No one could find him in the Pale, the night side of Pale. No one could find his soul. It is believed by Vancian scholars that that power, the more that they studied the spell that he cast, that he inscribed and left should the need ever arise, that it is believed that whoever so ever cast that spell, their soul leaves the actuality. And you realize when he says, I am Orod's sacrifice, he is referring to the spell. An Omega Vancian spell, the most powerful one can cast.
No. I think Kyrrie looks up into the eyes of this spell. And given how sort of at home she feels here and how natural this seems to her, be it dream logic, be it anything else, she looks up into the eyes of this spell, this Omega spell, and says, something happened to me. Back there in the battle, I had Marlowe Anvers cast, and then I cut a thread of magic, and suddenly something changed. And now Vitanda's angry with me and won't come. I fear I've done something grievously wrong.
A confluence of powerful magics. One cast by an unscrupulous agent of dark power, constructed to siphon life force, a curse that was used to break it, and the will of a Vance wielding that curse is a heady combination of power. Perhaps one that has exposed you to enough of these energies that you can perceive this place finally. Travel to it.
I can come back.
Say that again?
I can come back.
Make me a one last interaction roll as he kind of studies you.
That's an 8.
Even with that high of a roll, you realize that this creature, this spell, is inscrutable to some degree. Because regardless of whether or not it's wearing Orod's visage, it is not a human or a Visley. It is something different, something that you haven't really kind of encountered, not in this form. But as you say that, there is kind of a smile, or maybe a smirk, or a feeling of kind of acquiescence there. I suppose if you wish to brave this place, you may return in your dreams, in this liminal space. And as you kind of see him looking around, you realize that once again, like watercolor, has washed back, and the landscape around you is partly the current, but partly Allegra's mind palace.
I think as the dream pulls Kyrrie back into the realm of information and the blue and out of the raw current, I do think she fixes Orod's sacrifice with a somewhat inscrutable stare of her own. But there's almost defiance there. I will be back. Just you watch.
I have no doubt. You will need all the lessons that you can arrange in the times to come. And as he says that, he gives your palm a squeeze.
I think Kyrrie returns it, and she thinks of Maurice, whose influence who's taught her some manners when it comes to interactions with other people. And I think, even though this is not a Vizsla, even though this is perhaps the furthest thing from it, she says, "It was so very nice to meet you."
The feeling is mutual. And Orod's sacrifice bows. There is something that as you withdraw your hand, you feel in your chest the of the seed, as if something has been unlocked.
Yeah, I think she looks after the sort of dismissed trail of Vitanda, and she wonders whether or not Vitanda will come the next time she tries to cast them. But she's starting to think of them as... She always knew they were entities. She always knew that you trafficked with spells, that you negotiated that with them, that you wore them sometimes. But she never really thought of them as sentient. And I think this is the first time she's realized she could have relationships with spells that she casts.
You have this kind of revelation as you begin fading back into reality, and as you do, the lights around you, like old halogens, they begin to kind of fade slowly, and as they do, the lights in Allegra's mind palace go to darkness, but you see Orod's eyes glimmering back at you, the pupils like silver dollars, before finally they go black as well, and you wake up. And you have the benefits of taking all of your rests back. And we'll rejoin the rest of the crew. So,
Have a little visit to pure magic, you know.
all of you awaken the next day, still in the gold sun, having recovered from your travails and all of the work that you did to get to this place, to the Melitius Manor, the combats, the incessant chasing of the manor itself. I'm curious what everybody is getting up to now that you're fully rested, or at least have had as much of a semblance of a rest as you can get.
I think Maurice, I'll say that he wakes up first, and he kind of gingerly opens the door and closes it behind him so as not to disturb his still resting companions, and looks to find a place to quietly smoke his pipe. Perhaps a smoking room or a balcony.
The interesting thing is that as you think of it, the manor kind of rearranges itself according to your need. You find, describe this balcony or this room for me, this kind of requirement that you find yourself having. What rises to meet it? What constructs itself?
He first sees a just gloriously furnished leather chair, and then a humidor, which he opens and finds all sorts of different types of tobacco. And he finds one that is a bright pink, like that Major League Chew bubblegum that you got in the package.
Yeah.
And he picks that out and packs it in his pipe and sits there smoking and inhales deeply and thinks of how best he can support his companions who are still quite broken.
Well, make me, I think... No, you know what? I think that as you're considering this, I think that her elegance finds you in this moment. As you just hear, are you looking for company?
Always. Your hospitality is magnificent.
It's typically much more than this, but...
Given the circumstances, I'll leave it out of my Yelp review.
What's a Yelp review?
Imagine that you were struggling to find guests and you needed to advertise. Not a problem I think you've ever had.
Sounds tedious, but I take your meaning. And she sits and produces from a drawer in the table that you are pretty sure wasn't there before, a very long stemmed pipe that is elegant. And she takes a kind of blue colored tobacco that you see kind of manifests to the left of the pink bubblegum style tobacco, and packs her own pipe and begins puffing as she lights it.
It's nice to sit.
You haven't had much opportunity to do such thing, have you? Not recently.
No. I'm afraid every moment I do is racked with the guilt of not doing something else. Do you ever feel that way?
I suppose I did. I suppose that is why I became the mistress of this manor. The need to do something. Even if it was to provide a means by which other gifted sorts could follow their own interests.
We're kindred souls, then. We like to help others find their spark.
I suppose we are. And
Theron asked about you.
is it your compatriots that truly concern you the most? You seem in need of something yourself.
Well, we're all concerned with the relationships that we hold dear. Like Theron, I saw not long ago. He was asking about you.
My brother has always had a sense for when something is wrong. I'm glad I assume that he found you, or you found him.
Not much of a difference in the end.
Well, between godhood and mortality, not much has changed for my brother.
I noticed you keep a close eye on him in the orrery. We saw the silver sun was fixed on him.
Godhood is strange, insofar as Thurim has told me. You do not become... yourself. You are a conduit for something greater. And Thyrim was always a prodigious, creative, wonderful person. But now he is creation personified. How can one preserve themselves and who they are when they become something that much greater? I can only
Preservation seems anathema to this place.
Perhaps. In any other circumstance, I might say that good things should change, that is the way of the world, not just the gold sun, but of all of actuality. But he is my brother. And I have wanted what is best for him. Even if that means he stays the way he was for just a little while longer.
I don't think there's anything selfish about that.
He has intimated that I will one day become perhaps the warden of this place, should I choose.
An honor.
Well, an honor that any other mortal could have. Were they...
You hear what you're saying, right? Any old person could become the warden of the Golden Sun.
If they personified or lived by the reality of that place or manifested it somehow, like my brother did.
You make it sound like this place is a prison for you.
Well, for some time it was. Until you all graciously appeared.
But more than just recently.
I felt the need to follow in my brother's footsteps. Seeing what that entails, even being regaled by those as learned and scholarly as the Oriots, I am not so certain that is what I want anymore. But I do want to see my brother.
Reese takes a long drag on his pipe and says, how fortunate, then, that we both have the luxury to plan our next moves.
Quite the luxury indeed. And I will say that if this feels appropriate, the rest of your compatriots may join you in this moment. Unless...
I think Maurice's stomach rumbles and he begins thinking of breakfast.
Excellent.
I actually think Gav was eavesdropping on this.
Hell yeah.
I think, I think that you catch the snippets of this discussion, and you hear a very untoward sound, at which point her Elegance just says, "Oh, well, I suppose we should meet in the breakfast nook." And there's a slight smile as she takes one last puff of the pipe before kind of cleaning out the bowl of it and replacing the pipe inside the drawer. And she says, join me when you're ready. And she begins walking out of the main drawing room and down the grand staircase once again.
Maurice catches Gav and says, good morning. You're looking energetic.
Interesting conversation you were having.
I thought so too. Strange, her reluctance. No?
Is it?
How do you mean?
Listen, my experience in all of these suns, it has taught me, I think, one thing. Everyone is trapped here.
I suppose that's one way to look at existence.
Well, for all of the freedom of magic and, well, everything. It seems more people are bound to a certain role that they wish they need not be.
And
No
you?
one seems entirely happy.
What are you bound to, my dear?
Oh, I'm not bound to anything. Unless you mean this war I can't seem to stop fighting.
There it is.
I would prefer not to be fighting it. But then again, who would I be if I wasn't?
You're very much the dog that wouldn't know what to do with the squirrel when they caught it.
Is that how it's said in English?
I mean, I know how to turn a phrase or two.
Did somebody say that there was a squirrel?
Come here, buddy.
And yeah, Duncan has managed to find the two of you.
Well,
And-
here's someone that's always happy with his role.
Maurice picks him up and holds him like a baby,
Aw.
and says,
Is it
"I
like
think we-
fully like belly up with the
full
tongue
belly up?"
to the side?
Yeah,
Yes.
and yeah, Duncan like goes full like dead weight. Like, yes, I like this. and Maurice kind of scratches his belly and says, "I think we could all learn a lesson from Duncan." And then he, I think, walks back towards the bedroom just to make sure that the others are awake and moving.
Excellent. Twig, where are you in this moment?
Passed out face down in a book.
Which book, or which book was it?
Is it a forbidden book?
I think it was probably a book about I'm gonna go with fine dining of the it was like a travel food book along the path of suns.
Yeah, I think that
What's Invisible Sun's Michelin stars?
yeah, I think there is the moth is the magniloquent moth is actually the review that kind of you've gotten halfway through it and the text kind of disappears of a discussion of sumptuous kind of dishes, all kind of accommodating different palates and different walks of life of Saturnine, and it gets to the grand Saturnine's grand chef Salande has, and then it just stops.
Yeah, Twig took a little snack before falling asleep and is just like kind of passed out, one leg up against the wall, kind of braced between a bookshelf that has changed several times. So now they're in like this very uncomfortable looking, like, did they fall and break their neck and land in a book? Who knows? But is just lightly snuzzling.
You begin hearing kind of the clatter and the commotion of people kind of rising and starting the day. You hear the sound of clicking. I will say, you hear the sound of feet and heels on marble floors, and yeah. I will say this: as you kind of stir from your snuzzling, you see that there is a figure watching you sleep.
Does it look like a threat?
Doesn't look like a threat. you realize Gafarian is kind of sitting there, kind of studying you in this moment.
I think Twig kind of rolls over so their back is against the wall a little bit and flips the book closed on their face. So it's kind of like, like when you put a pillow over your head in the morning, it's kind of like that. And just goes, "Can I help you?"
Oh, you've done enough help, I think, but I've just been chatting with my brothers and sisters, as it were. And you see, make me a perception roll, actually.
Yeah, I think that the attempt to shield one's eyes from the light has failed, and the book has fallen open again. It's a little too heavy to function well as a pillow. Perception check. I will put a bene into that.
Okay.
Well, that was not great. That was a 4 plus a 1 plus a. Do I have a skill that's relevant to this? No. That's a 5.
I will say with a 5, you notice that Literalum has kind of crawled over to one side, whilst the kind of paper crane is kind of flying overhead. I will say even with a 5, you do notice that both the crane and Literalum seem a little bit bigger than they used to be. Not only that, but you just hear Fortinbras pipe up from the holster that you have placed it in. "Hey, don't look at me. He just won't shut up."
Yeah, I'm getting that feeling. All right. I'm getting up.
And Gafarian just looks at you as you're kind of getting up, and without rising from his seat, looks at you and says, "To what end?"
Well, mostly so my neck stops hurting.
No, I mean, to what end do you do this? And he points at Literalum, at the crane, at Fortinbras. Why do you burden them in this way?
The choice to be is not a choice.
Especially if you are the one making it.
Nobody makes that choice. None of us get to make that choice.
But you chose to cast the spell to animate these creatures, to animate me.
It's not really a spell so much as it is like just a thing that happens. I'll be honest, I kind of have a really mediocre grasp on the mechanics of it. But yeah. Look, it's always a gamble. Life is a gamble. You never know what's gonna happen. And nothing ever happens unless you take a risk. Even if it's a little risk.
It seems to me then the best thing I can do is become the house.
Do you want to be a house?
You realize that when he says it, he means in the manner of the house always wins.
Look, you do you, bud.
And he rises. I think he was looking for something. And he just, I think, takes one long last look at you before following the sound of feet and commotion.
Yeah, I think Twig just stares after him for a brief manner before yawning again and looking down at Literalum and the paper crane and just going, What What did you tell him?
There is a sense as Literalum kind of scrawls something as the text of the manuscript opens, and you just see a book, basically a little mini simulacrum of Literalum appear in the pages with a halo over their head. And then you just see what you realize is the scribblings of language in a kind of a chicken scratch. And you just see it read nothing bad. And you realize this is the first time Literalum's actually manifested language rather than pictographs.
And I think, Twig is like kind of leaning down a little bit and goes, handwriting's better than mine.
Yeah, and I think
like pats Literalum on the book head.
Yeah, it's at this moment we'll smash cut from here to Kyrrie. What does your morning look like now that you've kind of had this dream?
Yeah, I think Kyrrie is uncharacteristically late to breakfast. I think like the lingering in the current and not wanting to wake up was very much a literal thing. And as she wakes up, I think she finds herself not only sort of reaching back into that reality, that world, only half sure if it's real or not. And like also realizing, looking at the clock, oh man, like this is like real time has also passed. And so I think I think when she normally like comes down to breakfast, she's very polished, it's like, oh yes, I'm here and I'm on time, and being on time is actually being early, and so I'm here sat at the breakfast table. But no, I think she's kind of like a whirlwind of sort of loose pages and like, sleep bleary, and her hair is not quite done, and like, she makes it down to breakfast, but she's definitely like the last one there. And I think her mind is sort of reeling. However, I think upon waking, like the very first thing she did, she woke up and she found her hand was on Zaleska's grimoire, like completely unbidden.
Absolutely. And I think as you have done that, you just kind of feel almost like I think you hear that voice in your mind of the grimoire just say, "A troubled rest."
An illuminating one.
That is good to hear.
Do you know about the current? It's Zaleska.
Insofar as Zaleska described it, yes. She was always interested in almost thinking of herself as a lens by which she could refract the current itself.
Did she ever go there? Did you write about it anyway?
You realize it's searching for something. That information, if I have access to it, is locked away.
I think Kyrrie feels a pang of almost like shame. She knows that there's a key that she possesses, another advancement toward unlocking the grimoire that she hasn't yet applied. I'm sorry I've been so hesitant as of late.
Well, in due time, but time is meaningless to me. As long as I am maintained, as long as I am safeguarded, then time is immaterial. But time seems precious to one like you. You should bear this in mind.
Time. And I think like something chimes in Kyrrie's brain. Oh, time, real time. I'm late. And I think she like hastily bids Zaleska's grandma, we are going to breakfast. And that is how she appears, quite flustered at the table while everyone has already started eating.
Good morning, sleepyhead.
I'm here.
Have you rest?
Well, magically, actually.
Pardon?
Met a spell. Very interesting, very mad.
Just once when I say good morning, how did you sleep? What I'd like to hear is, fine, thank you. How did you? Not, I had a magical, cathartic experience with some mysterious object.
I, on the other hand, want to hear all about it.
I mean, I do want to hear about it, but I'm just saying that once it would be nice if we actually just slept. Does anyone miss that? Sleeping?
I can't remember the last time I actually just slept.
And I think you say all of this whilst you guys are in a nook that is part of on opposite side of all of you that are facing away from the house, a massive bay window that looks out on a quickly changing landscape, all of which is tinged and lit by golden light. That said, the thing that is just most striking to you is just how opulent and how set out the table and the spread are. Anything that you could possibly have wanted, anything that you could think of to eat or to nourish yourselves with is on this table. A delicacy, a trove of delicacies that you realize her elegance has, spared no expense of sorcery for. And not far from all of you, you see just a collection of some of those aureates that all of you had encountered previously in the manor, in various states of injury and recuperation that are dining. But those that are more capable, you are seeing, or less capable, you see are being attended by thought forms, which were previously not manifested by the house's will. With her back in control, you see all of these people being attended to and cared for. And yeah, I think I just want to make sure that we set the scene here for you as you have this discussion.
So you met the spell?
Yes, well, it was quite angry, actually. The one that I failed to cast at Marlowe when he was escaping. Veranda, you're supposed to be able to restrict what someone can do. Not, like breathe or think, but, you can't move. You can't cast spellcraft, that sort of thing. They were so angry. How dare I believe that I, Kyrrie von Hollingsworth, could cast them, the mighty Veranda. I've never had a spell react to me like that before.
How do they normally react? Have you ever spoken to a spell before?
No, not quite not using language. It's interesting. I actually think there's probably a paper to be written about it, or at least a journal article. If I have time next time we're in Saturine, I should probably write it down. It seemed like a publishable experience. But no, usually it's more like a pressure, or you get a sense of resistance, of pull and push, of negotiation, but it's never articulated, not quite in that way.
Interesting. Do spells normally talk at all?
I've never heard one. Not before now, anyway.
How did you leave the conversation?
Well, they're still mad. I don't know quite what gift do you get a spell to repair a relationship? I don't
Maybe
even
you
know
ask
what I like.
next time before you cast the spell?
Oh, well, I suppose. That does seem polite.
Seems like the kind of personality that might take offense at bribery.
I mean, I think Kyrrie's like, is it bribery to give someone a gift? She ponders this as a philosophical reality. And then she's like, there was another spell. Bigger. Much more powerful. Orod's sacrifice. Do you know the story of Orod?
No.
He was a Vance, and once upon a time he cast a spell that nearly destroyed Saturine. And
How
then
many
had
times
to...
has this city been attempted to be destroyed?
The annals of history go quite a ways back, at least as far as I've read. Many destructions, many rebuildings. But he made a sacrifice to fix it, and that was to send his soul out of the actuality. And the spell is what remains.
Wait, so like he destroyed his soul?
It seems that way, yeah. Or sent it somewhere else.
I thought the only place it could go was the Pale.
But you were in the blue, in the deeps of sleep, correct?
Well, that's where I started. Something called the Current. I was asking the Grimoire about it. Apparently, not just the blue. Apparently, that's where magic lives. It's a force. It's called the Current for a reason, I expect.
You
Can I roll to know about that? The
absolutely.
There's no way that Gav would. She's just buttering toast.
What kind of toast?
Make me
What
a
kind of toast?
make me a magical lore roll. I will tell you this. Actually,
Toast roll.
yeah, like this is just for additional information in addition to what you'd already know. Go ahead and make me a roll.
Cool. I get +1 to understanding.
Yeah.
Non-standard magic.
Excellent.
What kind of toast do they have in the Golden Sun? Because my brain keeps going ever-changing multi-grain toast, like all
yeah.
of them at once.
You have to
Ever-
time your
Multitude
you have to time your
I'm
bites.
your bite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
each bite is a different grain.
Yeah, exactly. At one point, it's like a nice marble rye, and then the next second, it's a multi-grain,
Right?
and then
Burnt, not toasted at all, perfectly toasted.
Oh God.
I rolled a 5 all day.
On a 5, I will give you something in addition to what you'd already know. So, the thing about the Current is, you know that certain schools of magic, Vances, they look at magic differently. And from your experience kind of wielding Kieran's knowledge, you realize that, magic is something that can be worked in. And a lot of these different schools of thought, these different kinds of magic practitioners, they bring a unique perspective to their world. It's different philosophies. And in point of fact, weavers have a great deal in common with the Vance, just because so much of what they discuss about kind of like the current or about the weave of, or kind of like the current of magic and the path of suns kind of dovetails very neatly with what you guys consider as the weave, basically pulling ambient strands of concepts out of you kind of like out of the actuality itself and manifesting them. You have never thought, however, as a weaver necessarily to give a spell a name or to ask its permission. You are thinking more of like, it's almost like a conservation of energy as you're kind of manifesting that will and trading that will in exchange for qualities and absences that are inherent to the weave itself. So,
and he says, the weave itself.
Mm-hmm.
You were in the weave itself? Fascinating. Beautiful. I'm glad you came back.
I think you might be mute.
I was?
Yes. No, me.
No.
It was beautiful. Hard to return. It felt so, I don't know, right? Easy? They said I could come back, though. Or at least Orod's sacrifice did. I think Vitanda would prefer that I stay away.
Sounds like a trap.
with that 5 that you rolled, Maurice, the thing that immediately comes to mind is you don't think of the weave as a place you can go or be in. It is not. Yeah, exactly.
So that's why it's like,
Yeah. There's just, it's something that's like, it's like basically
the files are in the computer.
Like Kyrrie telling you that she was in the weave or in the current is basically like saying she danced between the raindrops.
So at Kyrrie saying, "Oh, she can't go back," I said, "Are you sure you're in control of when and how you come and go?"
No, not at all. I don't know quite what it takes, but maybe I could learn. This was sort of random. I think I was pulled there because of Vitonda, because of its rage at me, because of how it failed. I think that's how I got in, but in terms of coming back, maybe it's something I can practice.
I'm as fascinated as the next scholar, but I'm actually quite concerned. I feel like this might be a great way to lose you.
Yes, exactly that.
But this could help us. I mean, who knows what we might need? This seems like access to raw power.
Who's actually controlling your ability to go enter the weave? You just said yourself it wasn't you.
The current, but semantics. I do understand the words, so I have to use the right ones. Yes, but I think that's something I can only find out if I go, right? Like, that could be important.
Was there a way we can go with you?
I mean, I started in Allegra's Mind Palace. You could come with me there.
How can we be sure it wasn't Allegra herself that pulled you in?
Kyrrie thinks about that. I suppose we can't. I didn't see her or
That
hear
doesn't
her.
mean she wasn't involved.
It's been a long time since I've spoken to my sister.
I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. You're right to say that this could be an important resource for us, but there's a lot of important things we need to do, and I'm not sure what our next move should be.
It's at this point that her elegance kind of speaks up and says, "This is actually something I might be able to help you with. I have a means of sharing experiences. It was used for more hedonistic purposes, but I have an ample supply of an herb. Basically, one might be able to modify it so that you may share a sensation or an experience with those of whom you travel with, but at the same time, I also have a means for reaching the deeps of sleep, if that would be of use to any of you."
Tell me more about this herb. Is this merely to impart a memory or communicate at long distance?
Well, until the sun sets, you can share sight or basically alternate one after the other what you see, how you act. But in this case, modified, we might be able to allow it to access memory or speech or other senses. If there is one thing that I can offer, it is a modification, an alteration of this herb.
It's very gracious. I think more than anything, regardless of what we decide to do, we'll need transport between the suns. Do you know a good way to do that?
Well, and she looks at you, Gabrielle. I don't see... I may provide a means of safe passage through here, but you already have all of the ability required.
Right. I think I can do that.
Well, you are a pathwalker. I can see that very much.
Well, I haven't been doing it for very long.
Well, how else do you think we were able to open the manor door? You open doors. It's something you can do inherently.
I can try.
I have no lack of faith in Gabrielle's abilities, but they are untested. We'll see, I guess.
Where is it that we want to go?
Well, Twig, I couldn't help but... Twig,
Ah,
I couldn't help but notice you're not quite kicking on all cylinders. Do you want to find your heart?
yeah. But what about, we were talking about drugs?
She looks at you. An herb that is, when ingested, you may share experiences or sensations or look through another's eyes, or with a little bit of my modification, you might be able to share additional senses or memories.
So drugs.
A controlled substance.
Drugs.
She just kind of
We're
sighs.
missing words here.
And
Oh,
she says,
sorry.
yes, a drug.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different things I guess we need to do.
Well, you have...
How well will this how efficiently would this share memory?
Well, it would take some prodigious effort on my part, but I have no doubt that the Aureates, when they've recovered, will be up to the task, and I know that I've worked enough with the substance itself that it should be relatively trivial. What requirements do you have?
There's some stuff that I need to share. And I guess strictly speaking, I could just throw it up a bunch and then make you throw it up and then I throw
No, please don't. No, not in front of my toast.
Yes, this all sounds like a terrible process. I think the drug would be better.
I don't think they have the right salt here for that.
And she just has the look of someone who's just every part of this conversation is unappetizing. At which she just kind of turns to Gafarian and how may I help you? And Gafarian kind of has to think on it for a while. And when I know, I will tell you. But until that point, I would appreciate your hospitality. And she says, you may have it for as long as I may extend it. And he nods. But she then kind of turns back to you, Twig, and says, and what would you need this substance to do?
just share a memory briefly.
If that is...
Honestly, poorly would be better, I think.
Wait, you could tell us? Why can't you just tell us?
I don't think I can describe it, but I don't think you'll understand. You need to see it.
Kyrrie catches on. This is about that knowledge you ate, isn't it?
Yeah. God, I'm
It-
hungry.
It's
Oh.
hurting you?
It's not great.
Forgive me for asking why you'd want to share it. Why not just unburden yourself?
Because it's real important.
I tried to make that argument to them yesterday. Didn't work.
Well,
So, here's the thing. We can't get... I might be able to excise it, but before we examine it, I can't excise it before we examine it. Because I don't think I know what I'm looking at. I just know that it's... You ever eaten, like, so much food
No, that's never happened to me.
that you feel like you're gonna, like, if you move too fast, you're gonna split? Or you ever had, like, an infected cut?
Yes.
I liked the food analogy better.
Neither of these things make any sense to me.
Just, like, the pressure from inside's gonna split your skin open.
Maurice gets her Elegance's attention. Says, "These herbs, may I inspect them?"
of course. And she says, just a moment, I will have to go to the rec room in order to acquire them. And she leaves the table, leaving you with Gaffarian and your own company.
So, one way we can help our friend Twig is to deal with this important and caustic memory. Very good. And Gav, you... You're our main transportation. I think that means that we go where you go.
Well, provided I can even get us there safely. I was hoping to maybe go back to Satrine. There's some unfinished business that I have there. But even above that, we still need to find Mott.
This is true. I think... Go ahead, Twig.
Eventually, I do need to go to the green. Somebody's got my heart. And, I guess prosthetic that... what's his face? That one guy with the... that did all the stuff?
Jaren?
No, not Jaren. We met him... Oh, God, it feels like my head is splitting open. Like it's... You know, I have a great memory, for the record. And, whatever. The artificy dude who made all the stuff for us. That guy.
In the silver?
Yeah.
The Sterling Veruna Shakir.
Yeah, sterling silver. That
I
guy.
didn't get to meet him.
Well, we got you something. So you don't get to
Yeah.
complain.
A souvenir is not the same as experience.
If I get us back to Satrine, is that a central enough location for us to make plans to visit the other sons?
I'm not imminently dying, but I'm not dying.
Well, no, what I meant by that is that it feels like I'm the most familiar with Satrine, therefore getting us there feels like an easier feat than to go to the Pale or the Green from here. Without,
Sounds like
I don't know, killing everyone accidentally or just sending us into the
Absolutely.
void.
Sounds like the easiest and safest path to what is possibly the most dangerous place for us to be. But where is safe?
Oh, nowhere. As soon as you get rid of the idea of safety, the better off you're going to be.
At which point you just hear Gafarian kind of speak up and say, while I am still somewhat resentful of the situation, I still must be grateful for your help in sparing me or taking that memory. And so allow me to offer this in return. The orrery that you found me in, it's capable of viewing any place in the actuality, should you wish to see a particular someone. It might help for you to have foreknowledge of where you intend to go. With my help, I can allow you to glimpse potential destinations, find people, a limited number of times. You just have to decide what is most critical to you.
Creepy.
Wonderful. That's a great idea.
But very useful, yeah. Still creepy, but very useful.
I mean, I would like to check in on my dad, on Kenroy. Lots of people.
Can't we just visit them?
Unfortunately, Avenant made prodigious use of the orrery. There are a few times that you can see this. I would say 2-3 times at most before it will need to be re-energized, and that will take some time. So, bearing that in mind, decide who it is you wish to glimpse, or where, or what, for that matter. And
Besides what I took from you, do you remember what he looked at?
He was looking at a void. But he also... I saw a man in formal attire, clad in black. I saw him as he truly looked, bound in spider webs. It seemed like he was trying to spy on this man. To what end, I am not sure. Does this sound familiar?
Does it?
I will point out that Marlowe is... You realize his true form was where touched, segmented and held together with spider webs.
My own move. Got it.
Yeah.
Marlowe did say something was coming. We didn't have much time to chat, but he boasted that it was going to change everything.
Well, hold on. What can this orrery do? Can it find Marlowe wherever he is? Can it find where Twig's heart is exactly?
It has that potential, but you must be familiar with the subject. One who has...
Maurice shoots a glance at Twig. Are you?
Ah.
Well, it is their heart.
Look, I don't really pretend to understand what I am or who I am or any of that. I don't know that there is other things like me. Like us, I guess. And like Twig glares, and it's very clear it's not at any of you. It's kind of being passive aggressive at anybody who might or might not be listening. internally.
Well, if I may provide some advisement, figure out who it is, what it is you wish to see, what is of most importance to you. I will do my best to make that vision as clear as I can, and then you should decide where it is that you most need to be. And it's at that point that we're going to take our 10-minute break. So guys, for everyone joining us for this fine episode, we will return in 10 minutes. Don't touch that dial and or change that URL. We will be back with more...
Or switch that orrery.
We will be... Exactly. For all of you with orreries at home.
Or go through that mirror, or cast a spell without asking it first, or looking through any telescopes, or using any compasses. Have I gotten everything yet?
Lord knows you got enough tools at your disposal, and they're going to use some of them in 10 minutes, and we will see the end of part 2 of the Hole in the...
Goodbye, good luck, I'll miss you. Remember me this but when I leave, I still
Welcome back, everybody, to The Hole in the World, an actual play set in the world of Monte Cook Games' Invisible Sun RPG. I am, as always, Zach, otherwise known as Great Samino. I'm rejoined by my cast for the second half of this episode. The first half that they spent kind of recovering and planning after their battle in the Gold Sun against the Vespertine agent Avenant. They encountered some sentient spells. They encountered her Elegance as meaningful offerings of assistance, as well as that of Gafarian, a animated creature, or a creature, I should say, animated by Twig. And we're going to just pick up where we left off, with all of you now knowing that you have access to the orrery that will allow you to glimpse anyone in the actuality to which you may be connected, or to which you may have a keen link or strong desire to see, as well as any objects for that matter. So I'm going to put on some music, and you guys tell me what you have prioritized after this discussion amongst yourselves. In fact, I will even go insofar as you would like. We can start in the orrery.
Sure. I think in the orrery, Maurice kind of taps or nudges Twig with his elbow, says, "You still got that multiphasic compass, right?"
Yeah, I'm kicking around. Twig digs into this jacket and I think reaches uncomfortably elbow deep into a bottom pocket, and kind of pulls out a handful of what appears to be like some sort of foil wrapped truffles, and then pulls out the multiphasic compass.
As you pull this out, the multiphasic compass just immediately starts pointing directly at the oculus attachment of the orrery, the scope through which you will see whatever it is you intend to see.
Ooh, validation.
I was kind of hoping it would point at one of the suns.
Yeah, I will. No,
Twig flicks it.
Yeah. Do you ping? Yeah, I think if you kind of put the multiphasic compass towards the path, glimpsed like in the hands of Twig, I will say that it does rotate towards the green on the path of suns, but at the same time it is pointing and then it reverses 180 and reverses back while it is pointing at the green sun.
I don't know what that means. Maybe somebody else should hold this. Is it pointing at me?
No.
I know where I'm at. Hey.
You get the sense that it is something. Actually make me a magical lore roll.
Make me a common sense roll.
Mm-hmm.
God, my poor dumb baby. Let's see, magical lore. I think I have points in this, so let me double check that. I have a point of magical lore, and I will put a point of intellect.
Mm-hmm.
That intellect, yeah. So I'll put a point of intellect into that. That's a total of 5. Great.
With a 5, I will say that you realize that as it's kind of flipped back and then forward, you realize that the thing that's unique about the multiphasic compass is it has 2 additional cardinal directions, one called Stannis and Rem. And the idea, one called Stannis, one called Rem. And the idea that you realize that is trying to tell you is it's probably on the night side of the green sun. As the Stannis arrow has kind of drifted and begun kind of pointing on the opposite side that it was when you were looking at the path as a whole.
Oh, okay. I see what's happening here. It's on the night side.
Great. Are we all okay with starting there?
I think if we don't, we might not have a twig for much longer. And I'd like to preserve that if possible.
Me too.
Aw, y'all are so sweet.
Okay.
It's fine. I'm only dying a little bit.
We're all only dying a little bit.
Well, I'm dying a lot of it, but slowly.
You're dying a little bit, but faster than normal.
Yes. At an accelerated rate, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So are you going to look through the telescope then?
You know, dying kind of feels like indigestion. Isn't that weird? Like, if you have indigestion, how do you know you're not dying?
It's too much for me right
Maybe
now.
you need to stop eating the philosophical books before lunch.
Hey, you're not supposed to eat any philosophical books, actually.
Oh.
May I remind you?
I mean, yeah, I had an Eggs Benedict. It was delicious.
I, too, had a pastry.
One of the stale ones from your pockets?
Maybe? Don't
That's
judge
why you
me.
think you're dying.
No, you don't get indigestion. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Do you still have all of those pastries?
They're only like 4 weeks old.
All of you
Really
are
old for a pastry.
delightful, you hear from Gafarian behind you. But please try to focus.
It's funny because you're a telescope knob.
There's just like this, you hear the crack of the dial as it inclines
Gonna get killed
45,
by telescope.
45 degrees.
Twig just drops the multiphasic compass into Maurice's hands and keeps laughing.
All right.
After you. I'm really excited to see where your heart is.
Okay. Here goes. Is this obvious how to do this, Zach, or do I need to roll for this?
I will say that give me a perception roll. This is just going to be because you realize that as you kind of start looking at the controls, Gafarian bats your hand away and says, I will control this. And
Okay.
yeah, he begins kind of making several adjustments to this array of dials, one of which you recognize as the path of suns, as well as which sun it is, as well as which side of the sun it is.
The perception roll was 4, by the way.
Okay. So you look through the compass, through the orrery. And I need to change the music real quick. Let's see.
Oh, we don't need to deal with this now, but I do need a new incantation.
Okay. We will do that after this. So, as you look through let me find ominous. There we go. As you look through the orrery, your vision is blocked at first and then clears, as if you are pushing through a underbrush within a dense hedge. And the thing that you see is a kind of like almost like a cave outcropping within this kind of dense foliage. You can just tell looking at this scene that every square inch of wherever you are looking is covered in vines and covered in some sort of flowering vegetation or plant. And as quickly as it is manifesting and blooming, it is also wilting and dying. And you see like pieces of places in this rocky outcropping where things have been grown over, eroded, and then cracked through the foundations by this vegetation. It is growth that is less growing and less sustainable so much as it is metastasizing as you kind of take in this scene. However, the thing that you kind of see is as you kind of focus the orrery and the lenses of it, you see it focus and it goes into this rocky outcropping into what you realize is a cave. And as you do this, you realize that there is something about this cave that is radiating energy out in such a way that it is keeping this rapacious cancer-like growth of vines and vegetation at bay. And your vision, you see a familiar figure. This familiar figure is wearing kind of a lengthy kind of duster or trench coat and a sort of hat that seems like a ruin of a fedora that is kind of been knocked off to one side. And that figure is unmoving. And the thing that is most familiar about it, however, is the fact that it doesn't have a face. And you remember the night that you were shot, that this figure that you turned to look back at, it had no face, no features. It was entirely blank skin. looking back at you somehow. And to one side, you see this figure sprawled, as though they have been here for some time. And to one side, dropped from their hand, is a massive gun. And the lens focuses again, and you see a figure almost kind of clenched down and kind of bent down and squatted down, almost in a fetal position, seemingly holding something that is pulsing in a rhythm. And this figure is lithe and slender and feminine, and you cannot see their face as they've kind of been covered holding whatever it is in front of them, but you see a shock of bright green hair.
I think this is like a cascade of memories that are very fresh and yet feel very old at the same time. Like it hasn't been that long, but everything that happened in the gray feels so ephemeral now. And these memories just cascading back of the fragment of the bullet from the demon bullet from the mother gun.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like years have passed since that happened, but it wasn't that long ago, was it?
In the grand scheme of things, not necessarily.
And yeah, I think this wouldn't count as having been there, would it? Just knowing where it is.
I will tell you this. Make me one more magical lore roll.
All right, I'm going to put a sortilege into this.
You may also use hidden knowledge in this case.
Oh, I will absolutely do that. Can I do that in addition to?
Yeah, what was it? Always.
Oh, yeah, baby. That is a 8 and a 6, so a 9 and a 7 and a hidden knowledge. I don't know what the hidden knowledge does.
So that adds a 1 to whatever your roll is. It's a finite resource.
10 and an 8.
With a 10 and an 8. By the way, which
the magic dice or the sortilege dice is the 8, unfortunately.
Okay. So there is something still with that 8 that you kind of like grasp about this situation, which is that you are taking a look at this place and it is still familiar to you, but you just haven't had recent experience of it, or those memories have been locked away or have otherwise kind of subsided. But you have the sense that if you have a means of accessing this kind of recall or this internal memory, your form or your prior form to before you were stuffed into Kesh's body was an elemental of this place. So ostensibly, you could try to use your internal memory, so to speak, or the magic that is inherent to you to find your way back.
What could possibly go wrong?
Question for another time. As your vision as you kind of make this out, you realize that the scene is not shifting anymore, and this is probably all you can glimpse at this point. Who's next?
So mother gun, that's there. Night side of the green, heart stuff.
Where in the night side of the green?
That is a complicated answer. I might be able to get there just all on my own, but I don't know how to describe that.
Wait, please don't go on your own. I'm here to help.
Well, I mean, I can. It's like muscle memory. That's a thing that you have, right?
I know, just if you decide to go, give me a chance to talk you out of it.
I mean, no, I'm gonna die.
If you decide to go by yourself, I mean.
Yeah. Look, you wanna... look, I'm... Yeah, sure.
The multiphasic compass in Maurice's hand, I think, swivels to one of the other companions. Is it Gav or Kyrrie?
Who wants it?
What does it do? That'll determine who gets it.
It compasses.
You're the one holding it.
I was gonna say this is in Maurice's hands. Where does this point? What does Maurice most want right now?
I think I don't think he verbalizes this, and it swivels to Gav. I think you're next. Do you know what you want to see?
I know that from what we heard, Mott is in the night side. But correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, I don't think we heard where specifically.
He was actually, the last time you checked, you realized he was back at Satyrine.
He was back in Satyrine.
There was a collection of newspapers that seemed to be showing him in photographs as part of heists or the machinations of King 9.
I'll take it.
Okay.
And interesting. If we know where Mott is, what do I need from the compass?
Well, I will volunteer that you could get a more exact read, or you could find out something about somebody else or an object.
I was going to have some fun with this.
Okay.
Zach, as the DM, why don't you hit me with something?
What would you like me to hit you with here? Like, what is what you're calling for?
I'm not calling for anything. I'm calling for a surprise.
Okay. I'm gonna turn a card.
Yes, that's what I should have asked for.
The crowded tomb, which accentuates pale and diminishes green, endings, despair, and completion. The tomb lies at the end of all stories, the reward for the greatest monarch and the lowliest beggar. Of course, the tomb is crowded. It grows more crowded each day. Mourners crowd around the tomb, but it is even more crowded within. So many deaths, so many endings. Crowded Tomb is the location card of the Secrets family. Its Secrets Raven's Books and Flame, and thus represents a permanence or is related to a physical place. This means that the finality that it represents probably occurs in a specific and significant location. The Crowded Tomb is an ending, not necessarily a sudden ending, an ending that you know full well is coming, whether you acknowledge it or not. It might just mean that a task is finished. It doesn't always need to be sad. Everything needs to end sometime. But there is an air of despair to this card, not outright misery, perhaps, but a lingering sadness, a mourning. Someone dies, something ends, an NPC is filled with sadness. The silence grows more crowded and yet remains silent. As you gaze through the telescope, or the scope of this orrery, what is it that fills Gabrielle's heart in this moment?
Wanting to bring down the Vespertine, as always. But I think that within that, there's a question of reflecting on the brief conversation she had with Maurice this morning, that they're at war. It doesn't seem to end. What comes after, or what is the cost of all of that? And there's the knowledge that we needed to go to the Pale too, so I think that's still kicking around in there with the seeds and everything that we still need to do, questions that are still unanswered from the war report. And within that, of course, is all the people that died in the war that no one remembers.
As you focus, the lens shifts, and you see a place that you don't necessarily recognize at first, but with enough time that passes as the lenses refract and focus, you make out a massive trophy room. And you recognize finally the trophy room of King 9. I would like you to make me a perception roll. This will just dictate exactly what it is, how much of this you see.
Yeah, I will pop a Bene into that as well. 5 with the Bene.
5. Okay. So there is something behind the glass that looks sharp and inky with darkness, and you realize that whatever this is another artifact that King 9 has secreted away. Some sort of device, some sort of item, something that he will keep forever, until you see a pair of darkness encrusted hands, as if emerging from a shadow, reach through the glass. What you realize is a caustic effect that begins kind of burning and singeing the clothing on the that is kind of coating these arms reaching through this kind of powerful spell glass. And you see and you feel a will here that reaches through, grasps the item, and pulls it back. And you realize that you are seeing this from a perspective, at which point the perspective shifts, and you see a number of kind of candle flame headed guards walking into this place, running in, pointing, at which point your vision turns as you turn your head to see a falcon-headed creature staring back at you, pointing back to another place behind you, as you see a shadow that from it emerges a door. And you sprint headlong and full tilt in through this door. And as you do so, you see another familiar locale as your perspective shifts and you find yourself in a darkened alley. You look around, steam venting outwards, and you see what can only be Fartown in Satyrine. You follow this perspective as it shifts, nodding at people as they pass. Nobody's seeming to pay any heed or mind to this person, secretly having kind of pulled aside this artifact under your arm. You're moving too quickly to even glimpse it, and you're not trying to pay it a second thought. And then you see, walking down after about 10 minutes through winding paths, you see on a wall a stencil in graffiti of a blue pinion. And you see a hand, gloved, knock hard on this wall in 3 separate places before dropping a bundle containing the artifact and continuing to move. And as you move, another 5-10 minutes pass, winding through, having completed this dead drop. And you find a shadow in a particular alley, and you step through it. And you see yourself in a vast manor, a place that you can only find by accident if you don't know the way. You walk through the door, and in a grand atrium you pass through, underneath, hundreds of burning moths as they catch alight and fly aflame. And you find a corner of this accidental space, one in which you see a simple makeshift cot, a place to rest your weary head, and you see your reflection in the glass of the windows looking out in this place somewhere in the night side. How has Mott changed? At the end of the war report, you glimpsed a single eye, human, through the mask that wasn't there before, but something else has manifested. Something about this visage has changed. What is different?
I think that in splitting his time between the night side, which he seems to be doing now, and the sun side, I think that in place of just that disconnected mask that was like floating in seemingly a void, there's much more of it's now connected to the rest of the body, but it is still a mosaic, like porcelain that's been cracked and replaced with like different color pieces of ceramics. There's something much more now, I guess, human shaped about it, rather than just sort of like a flat mass that would change in expression statically. Mm-hmm. There's clearly a mouth, there's clearly eyes, but it's not skin. It's still got that what's the word I'm looking for? Both like porcelain, textile, ceramic quality, created quality.
A bit modeled.
Yeah, and modeled as well. But very funny. Go to jail. 0 out of 5. And I think that's what the big difference is in the physicality.
As you see that, it's a fraction of a moment before you see a darkness enshrouded fist punch through the glass, shattering the reflection. And you begin to settle into the evening, or whatever passes for it in this place, finding some sort of reprieve, some sort of rest, fearing the nightmares that are inevitable to come. But as you lay down, underneath your pillow, you pull out a small cloth, ratty and worn from touch. A cloth that was meant for someone else.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And you shut your eyes, and the vision fades to black.
Well, that was fun. Who wants it next?
What'd you see?
I think I know where Matt is. And it's also hard to explain. He's definitely in the city, but he's also somewhere else. Some sort of place that you can only get to accidentally.
Maurice looks around and says, well, we have experience getting into those. Kyrrie, did you want to find Allegra?
I think I should. I'm a little afraid of what I'll see.
Would you like to hold the compass? Might help.
Kyrrie will hold her hands out.
Kyrrie, what do you truly want to see? In your heart of hearts.
I think what Kyrrie wants to see in her heart of hearts is her current character arc, which is understand your place in the great order of things.
Okay.
But she's going to try to look at Allegra. I think she feels like she's got this, the connection between the sisters she's always known as strong and not always explainable, but she knows that there's something there that's important. And that, like, Allegra has a bearing on what she probably just dreamed. She just doesn't know how or why.
Okay. I'm going to turn a card. We're going to see if the orrery exhausts after this. The Assassin. The Adept of mysteries, rats, mirrors, and stone, finesse, stealth, betrayal, and finality. Subtlety is the assassin's greatest tool. Anyone can kill, but he does it so deftly and so quickly that even the victim doesn't realize they're dead until the assassin is long gone. He often poses as someone harmless or even friendly, because betrayal is subtlety's closest sibling. The assassin is the adept of mysteries. His knowledge of the secrets of death is limitless, and his use of skill and finesse would be a thing of beauty if he used them for anything other than murder. But he does not. The assassin doesn't just bring death, he brings an ending. Endings can be welcome, the ending of something unwanted, for example, or when it suggests betrayal, it might be a relationship that comes to an end. But when this card is turned, it can indeed foretell literal death or the threat of death. If this is the case, the death will come from an unexpected quarter. The PC is betrayed by a trusted NPC, something important. Something significant, a dynasty, a tradition, an organization comes to an end. Something unexpected turns deadly, such as a bottle of wine turning to poison. Dealing death is a magical art all its own.
I have a pitch, Zach.
Yes.
Just because of this card pull.
Uh-huh.
One thing that's been pinging around in Kyrie's brain, and sometimes that is very, in fact, close to her chest, in that she wears an object containing their soul, is Ardeno. And the unanswered question of what happens to Arwen.
Okay. This is what you want to see? I will tell you this. I want to make this bargain.
You can, if you have a better idea, go for it.
So, this orrery, it can see you, it can show you anything in the actuality to which you are linked or to which you have a strong connection that you can see. I will tell you this, I will give you an option. You can see in this moment, manifesting through yourself, the past or the present. If you choose the past, the orrery will exhaust.
What do y'all think? Do we have anything else we really want to know from the orrery?
I think go for it.
Okay. All right.
I mean, yes, there is stuff that we really want to know, but do the character choice.
All right. I think Kyrrie wants to see the past.
Okay. Let me see if I can find something a little bit more appropriate. You look into the past through the orrery, and you are greeted by another familiar sight. You are greeted by the sight of Allegra's Mind Palace. But this is a wing of this estate that you have not seen before. You see, reporting to her, Arwen. It seems to come from the time before the war concluded. between the time in which you were assaulted, or Allegra was assaulted by the Numivores, and after the conclusion of operations wherein the Black Cube was summoned. Reeling from a victory snatched away from Allegra, you can only guess as you look through this orrery what must have been on her mind, as she is having what seems like a sharp, clipped discussion with Arwen. Arwen has a ring on her left hand, her finger, and she's speaking animatedly to Allegra, and Allegra seems to be kind of dismissing her notions one after the other. And then Allegra leads her into a laboratory of her own devising, you realize is the work that she has been working as a spell writer on. A place with, massive tables and mementos of prior triumphs. And then and kind of, because this is a mind palace, these are rooms of requirement, but at the same time that will manifest according to her need, but at the same time they are filled with just kitsch and ephemera and small items that are all evocative of her own mindscape. And Arwen follows her, still talking animatedly, and then she freezes as a pair of fingers touch her temple. And the lens shifts, and you see Nathaniel Ashgate touching her temple, freezing her in place. And he seems to mouth something to Allegra. And Allegra moves to face Arwen, puts on some sort of glove, a deep crimson red. And she seems to mouth something through terse, pursed lips. And then she reaches her hand into Arwen's chest before taking a separate hand that swirls in energy to reach down and pluck something out of her. Something that glows with a profound light and seems to shimmer in her hand. And when Nathaniel takes his two fingers away, her body collapses and he catches her before she falls to the floor. But you know that she is unmoving and dead. And he takes her body and lays it out on one of these tables lovingly before kind of framing her hair and kind of just brushing it back, and with a kind of reverence, a respect for the dead, if it weren't so horrible what he just did. And you glimpse the assassin. And the vision begins to cloud over and darken as Allegra's hand shakes with this soul. And it fades finally to black, a halogen losing its light. And the orrery, whatever light seems to be pervasively kind of coming off of it, a shimmer, seems to darken and dull, at least for the time being.
Kyrrie steps back from the orrery, like it suddenly mutated into a venomous viper.
I think Maurice catches her. Hey, it's all right. It's all right.
What was that?
Where's Allegra?
I don't know. I didn't go forward. I didn't go. Oh, now I think I went back. I think Allegra is not who we think she is, or I don't know. I think Allegra killed Arwen.
Wait, what?
Okay.
What?
What did Darwin do?
In the war report, Ardeno's Arwen, I remember being Allegra. She was her protege. She was her friend.
So why'd Allegra kill her?
I don't know. Allegra's my sister. She's not a murderer. I mean, I didn't. Oh God, Ardeno.
As all of this flashes in front of you, I pulled a card. The card was the Forgotten Prisoner, the apprentice of mysteries, rats, mirrors, and stone. Its meanings are injustice, bad fortune, memory loss, and something lost. You feel acutely the current now, Kyrrie. You feel the path of suns as something manifests, some secret shame, some terrible happening. As you realize not just this memory, the totality of it washes over you, like you are washed by the tide.
So you saw the past. Allegra doing something you didn't think she was capable of.
She wasn't alone either. I don't know.
Who is she with?
It's not possible. He's from the Gray. And this was before I knew him. Maybe something's interfering. Maybe reality seems to be collapsing or blending or something.
There was somebody that was with me in the Grey that turns out was a part of Satrine as well. It's not that impossible.
But he wouldn't. He's not. Nathaniel was my... I mean, we built the Metalex engine together. What is he doing in the before here with Allegra killing someone? I don't know what that means.
Maybe you didn't know him as well as you thought you did.
Maybe one of us does. Maybe we could use the herbs. We could all share in this vision. Share in each of our visions. Take this knowledge with us.
I think Kyrrie nods shakily.
I hate the press. But what do you think this means for you? Where will you go?
I don't know. It seems like all of this, the current and Allegra and Arwen and Ardeno, it's connected. If nothing else, that's what this vision proves. And, well, this orrery has no reason to lie, but I think I need to hear this for myself. I need Allegra to stand there and tell me what happened. And I need to know why. So maybe I go after her. Or
Maybe.
at least go to the Blue, seek some answers. Or maybe to the Pale, maybe Arwen, if she's there.
Maurice thumbs his Testament of Sons and says, I can always try and talk to her.
To Arwen?
To Allegra.
Oh. That's right. You have connections to the Blue too, don't you, Maurice?
Just a matter of if they want to talk back. I didn't presume to think I would be the one.
Allegra's obstinate. And strategic. She'll probably see that coming.
Well, let's prove her right. Maurice uses his testament to call out to Allegra.
Okay. What are you trying to... What do you say?
Allegra, it's Maurice. I'm with your sister.
There is a long delay, and then you hear the Spider Prince. Where are you? The two of you.
She answered, she wants to know where we are.
Don't tell her.
I mean, we're leaving, right?
All the better to say we're nowhere.
I think Kyrrie looks at Gav and... We'll have more power if we come to her.
We're on our way to you, Allegra, if you'll have us.
I would be happy to receive you. I am in the Blue Sun, in the court of Nois. Tell Kyrrie that I found our father.
She's in the Blue Sun, the court of Nois, and she says that she found your father.
Oh. Oh. Well then. Perhaps they'll both be able to answer for this. Whatever this memory means. But it seems like we must walk into the lion's den to find out.
Maurice brings his attention back to Allegra and says, it's been nice to catch up. I hope to see you soon. And you can speak to me at any time, if you so wish.
Likewise, old compatriot. I look forward to our discussions. You may make
Kyrrie, she's sounding real creepy.
I was gonna make you make an interaction roll, but you know what? I think you kind of ascertained something.
I don't feel good about that at all. Oh. Maybe Allegra isn't who we thought.
Well, she's someone who apparently killed her former protege. For a reason unknown. So I would say so, yes. All this time I thought Arwen just died. In the war, from an injury, or I don't know. That's what Arteno didn't even remember her. What kind of magic is powerful enough to do that?
I mean, maybe she just hates me. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for her to hate me personally. Maybe, the person we saw in the war report. I'm just having trouble reconciling it, I guess. No less trouble than you.
I thought I knew everything there was to know about her. I guess we think that about our siblings, huh? Well, the only way to find out is to go. So I guess that's where my path will take me. At some point, But I think she looks to Twig. Twig, you're dying, though. And the more time we put between then and now, the more we can strategize. Or the more I can, about how to walk into the Court of Nois. Walk into a chess game, halfway in motion.
Yeah. How creepy did she sound?
Like, real full of menace.
Like, different than what I remember from the war report?
Yeah. Yes, it was different. It was slow and menacing, not terse and efficient. But it's also been a while.
War has a habit of changing people, not always for the better.
Look, I'm just dying. It's not like... It's like urgent, but not urgent.
If that's not urgent, what would you classify as urgent?
Dying is perhaps the most urgent thing.
Twig, there's a reason you're not in charge of strategy. I love you. But there's a reason.
Look, I have no idea what happens. As far as I can tell, I'll just pop up somewhere like a weird little mushroom or an unwanted guest. But I think I might lose all my memories, so that's not great.
We're experts at that at this point.
Speaking of memory, did we want to use the drugs? I don't see what else you could share that would... I mean, I'm ready for anything at this point.
I think it's now or never.
I agree.
Gafarian chimes in. Then I will fetch her elegance. And he goes and exits, and before he does, he looks back and said, I take it from your faces you have everything you needed.
Everything the Ori can give us at this moment. Maybe I'll ask you to look for some stuff for me in the future.
I will help how best I can. And he bows. And we're going to play with time a little bit. You find yourselves all in a recreation room, which you kind of realize has maybe perhaps been repurposed here. There are a number of cushions and comfortable spaces. It's very much almost like a open conversation pit. With a number of kind of recreational accoutrements, all in wooden cabinets around the side. And in the center of this pit, 2 steps down, you find a bowl of this herb called shared sensation, at least what it has been termed, as far as you know, by her elegance.
Frog pit, frog pit.
And she looks at all of you and says, so, you may ingest the drug however you like. It's more potent when smoked, but I can change it into whatever form is most palatable to you. That is something within my purview. Would you prefer a pill or, I don't know, a lotion of some sort? I understand that this is unorthodox for all of you, and I would like to do my best to accommodate you however you would like.
Gav is actually going to take it in pill form.
And she looks at you and says, now, the most important thing is that you all ingest it at the same time in the same form. Does this work for all of you? And as she kind of passes a hand over the bowl, it becomes 4 separate large blue pills. Or actually indigo pills, I should say. And
so it's not a red pill or a blue pill?
It is not a red pill. It is not a blue pill, unless you count indigo as blue. But it is not the thing that you are thinking. It is. And she gestures to the bowl in the center. It's kind of held aloft on this kind of metal dais. So I will await your return, but know that sharing this burden might alleviate that facing Twig. So I leave you to it. And she bows to you and says, if there is any emergency, any need you have of me, merely summon one of the thought forms or call for me. And she thinks about it. My true name is Theriana. Merely call, and I will assist you.
I think Kyrrie sits back at the idea that she now knows the true name of, like, a really powerful figure.
It is, you realize as she says that, it is an expression of gratitude, but most importantly of trust. Okay. Are all of you taking the pill?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to use a forte ability before we do so.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to call object from metaphor and present each of us with a spoonful of sugar.
Help the medicine go down?
To help the medicine go down. And I'm looking for a level 4 effect that this could do. I'd like it to be protective in some way.
I can give you, if you would like, I can give you mental armor.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All of you, for the time being, for this scene, have 2 mental armor. Okay. One last change of music. So, as you ingest the pill, you don't feel anything at first. There's not kind of a shared subconscious or dream or hallucination, at least not for the time being. And I think there's a moment where each of you are just wondering, did this actually work? And as you think that, you find yourself in a darkened landscape. The recreational room has melted away, And you find yourself in a twisted autumnal place. You realize now that as you are looking out and surveying your surroundings, you are in the middle of the black sun. This 10th sun that shouldn't exist, and yet it does, or it did at one point. And as you look out and survey the area around you, you realize that you recognize strange creatures that seem to populate this place like any ordinary denizen. However, the creatures that you see are unmistakably creatures of the dark. Demons, enemies of concepts that, well, they're not enemies of anything yet, insofar as you know. And you feel a tremor in the world under your feet as something begins to shake. That shaking accelerates and its magnitude increases, and a grand door surrounding the sky above you, large enough that it seems like a skyscraper could walk through it, opens. Many doors. 7, 8, in fact. And striding through might as well be skyscrapers. Massive creatures, massive gods, wardens, all of them. You recognize from seeing the Silver Sun Warden, the Indigo Sun Warden, and the massive creature that toppled it in the middle of the war report. You see all of their forms shifting, matching the concepts. But they're not, one of them is not Tharim, but you know a Silver Sun Warden when you see it. A large feminine figure holding forth a massive scepter. You see a massive figure in the dark almost emerge as if to try and oppose these creatures. And you see it break against the collective might. And the earth beneath you shudders as you feel it die by the hands of these other wardens. An inky blackness that seems meek in comparison to these titanic entities. Gabrielle, you see a figure that is familiar to you, that seems to wrap serpentine around a vast chunk of this sun. I'd like all of you, actually, to make me a perception check.
Can I slam dunk a point of hidden knowledge into that?
Absolutely.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to do that too.
Mm-hmm. All of you may do this.
Hell
You
yeah.
can't do both a Bene and a hidden knowledge, right?
You can, because
Can.
hidden knowledge is a finite resource. You do not regenerate it.
That's going to bump it up to a 10.
Okay.
Well, same hat.
All right. 10, 10. Kyrrie?
8.
9.
Okay. So, Gabrielle, this creature you see, it shifts and manifests in different strange fashions, but something about it is inherently familiar. It seems to be safeguarding and protecting a piece of this place. And you recognize that whatever it is very familiar as its form shifts, projecting illusions and ideas out into the space around it. And you recognize the god of the Arabasts, the Indigo Sun Warden.
What?
At least it was at one point. Twig, you recognize now what you didn't realize in your prior vision. The black sun, for whatever reason, is being raised and broken and destroyed as by all of these wardens combined, they break and crack it apart. This place of demons and of darkness and entities both terrifying and alien, they are tearing it from the path of suns. We'll get to the rest of what you see. Kyrrie, with your knowledge now, understanding what the current means, you realize that whatever is happening must have had profound effects on the way magic is channeled, on the facets of magic itself, on the perception of it. What is light without darkness? If light does not cast a shadow, where does it go? How does that manifest? If black is inextricably a part of nature, how can one remove it? And your answer comes in the next part of this vision. Maurice, you feel a presence watching all of this through filaments that transcend and connect all of the actuality. You feel in opposition to another entity or race of entities, this desire on the part of your cousins, brothers, in a sense, the desire to fix, to repair, to rebuild. But in your own people, you feel the need to watch, to retell, to spin, and you feel the heart of the conflict between the true ants and the true spiders as they witness in their godlike power the breaking apart of this place. It feels like each of you got one half of a missing picture. As what happens next, you realize with the black sun broken, it is not so much something you can just pluck out. It had its own weight, it had its own gravity, its own manifestation and purpose. Of purpose, I should say. It was like a finger held against a dam. And from out of the hole in this dike pours the dark. Small at first, the size of a quarter. But then you double a quarter. And then you have 2 quarters. And then you double 2 quarters, and you have 4. And so forth until the dark suffuses so much of the actuality, encircling the path, creating a night side to all of it. You feel this knowledge assail your brains that whatever the gods of the actuality chose to do, it doomed so much of itself. It began something, and yet it has promised that it will end it. You understand this implicitly, Twig. And from inside you, this is the end that awaits us all. And the vision washes out of you. sharing this burden, Twig, you regain 1 anguish.
Yay.
And when you all come back from this void washing over you, you find yourselves in cushions, in comfort, in safety, armored by your friend, but still wounded is not the right word, burdened with the knowledge of how this came to be. And this is where we end that scene. So, I'm going to once again change the music. And I'm going to give you guys one last scene that you can choose where you wish to go, what you wish to do, how you wish to set up your departure from this place. We're going to go in order. Or you can choose to go together. Or you can discuss what just happened. Your time, you realize, as in this story and the telling of it, is finite. So make it count.
Like immediately following this vision, Maurice gives each of you a very long, tight hug. And then he stands and says, I'm going to make preparations to leave. And I'll give you all some space if you need it. That was rough. And he'll go to find towards the direction of the Aureates that are still convalescing.
Okay, you do that. Who wants to go next?
I believe I'm making preparations to figure out how to transport us back to Saturine. As I am the vehicle that will get us out of here.
You're our sunship.
A lot better than that, thank God. Although I do think that there are 3 feathers in Gav's hair that have turned pure indigo. Because I don't believe that you get to look at the face of God and not be changed.
Okay. You begin making preparations to open a door. You feel it inside of you, a latent knowledge, which we will manifest later. Twig, Kyrrie?
Twig is going to scrounge up a piece of paper, probably torn out from a book that is now empty. Very assiduously making sure Kyrrie doesn't see that. And are there like pens around, or do I need to get weird with this?
No. You need a pen.
I need to get
a pen
weird with this?
manifests.
Oh, cool. Yeah, their ears twitch in annoyance, and then their eyes flick upwards in annoyance. And then it gets. We have a tiny crisis, and they are going to write down a short, not really a letter, a note. And they fold it up, and seal it with a bit of pastry glaze. And I think leaves it in the orrery. And it is addressed to our friendly dial boy.
Okay. Gafarian will receive that letter, and you can dictate it to me later. Kyrrie.
His world is slowly but surely crumbling around her. Everything she thought she knew about herself, the world, and even her immediate family is untrue or has complicated other facets that she wasn't aware of. And it just seems like mysteries all the way down. But she is mysteries, rats, mirrors, and stones, so that is appropriate. I think, though, this uncertainty, far from being a completely destabilizing force, is also a galvanizing one. And I think Kyrrie realizes she has two choices. She can go to pieces and learn nothing and solve nothing, or she can basically channel all of this uncertainty into action. So I think she immediately strides back to her quarters, and she takes out the key to Zaleska's grimoire, the one she hasn't placed in it, has been holding off doing because she hasn't been certain that she's worthy. She hasn't been certain that she's earned this knowledge, or that it should be her who has it, because after all, Zaleska gave the seed of ultimate indefinable truth to Gav and not to her. Kyrrie knows now that they need every bit of help they can get, and she needs to stop wasting time. She puts the gem that she has, the little bit, into the empty socket.
You hear Sorry, go ahead.
Jen completes the circuit as much as she can.
Excellent. It turns. The gray key inside of this grimoire. The lock turning, the mechanism unlocking, and you feel one of a series of locks undo, and you feel at your grasp more pages that you will be able to read in time. But I would like you to mark down the following two spells that you now have access to. Zaleska's Diversion and Zaleska's Obstructing Overwatch. As you turn the key and you begin poring over these pages, you turn and you see, looking back at you, a mirror. Your reflection stares back at you, but is not wearing your expression. It is one of sadness. And you see a hand, your hand, reach out close enough to touch the mirror, and then it pierces through the glass and offers it to you. And you realize comfort. The skin shimmering as it pierces the surface, from one of skin to one of perfect reflective glass. And it waits for you to take it.
He does.
And you feel this gentle, smooth surface of the glass stroke lovingly your own hand, as if to comfort you. And it's at that moment that will end part 2 of The Hole in the World. So,
kicked ass, man.
So we're running a little late. Let's go ahead and I will go ahead and give you guys the option if you'd like to do character summaries offline. We can do that. Let's do that, in fact, because I think there's just so much going on that it might be more fun for us to talk about it, and then we will maybe allude to those changes next side scene or season. But that still doesn't mean we don't have to do shout outs and plugs. So Marcy, why don't you start us off?
Hello. This is my usual fare as the person that just plugs our channel all the time. We're cool. We're awesome. This is an award-winning cast, folks. Holy shit. Sorry. We've been thinking about this one for a while. We have a ton of stuff that I don't even know what's happening because this is in the future. We have Streets of Gotham. We have Flights of Fandom. We have shows I probably don't even know about at the moment, but I'm sure that you should go check out everything that's happening when there is a schedule from wherever you're watching this. And in the meantime, you can watch all of the past episodes of Hole in the World on our YouTube channel, in addition to a lot of the other shows that I just mentioned. And we're coming up with new stuff all the time, and we love to play with new people. So if you're really interested in playing a game with us, you should get in touch with us.
Awesome. Bill, shout outs and plugs.
I'd like to shout out Zach Norton, excellent GM, real fun to play. And I will plug Hopper's Twitch channel, the_legend_tree. Lots of fun stuff that I'm sure Hopper would love to tell you about, including but not limited to sometimes we play Gloomhaven on there. And we have a campaign of a 5e home game that graduated all evil characters called Dark Visions. It's a lot of fun, and Hopper's trying to kill us. That's it for me.
Hopper, you're up.
That's me. Still me, still Hopper. Sorry about that. It's a terminal condition. Your terminal condition. You can find me online under the Legend Tree, like Bill said, in a lot of places. If not there, then you can find me for bad hot takes and occasionally dumb mini painting content under the Fail Deadly. That is with a 3 instead of an E because I'm a bad person. Yeah, like Bill said, currently I am running 2 consistent shows on there on my channel, twitch.tv/the/_legend/tree. We'll link it somewhere or something. And that is Dark Visions, which Bill described, and Roots of Jashar, which is a cozy world building series with anywhere between 1 to 4 people, where I tell dumb stories in my, frankly, actually they're really cool stories. I tell really cool stories in my fucking dope ass fantasy setting. And I would like to plug Encounter Party. Encounter Party's dope as fuck. They have a couple seasons of podcast, and very soon they're gonna be on TV, like real TV, which is weird.
So crazy.
Yeah. And probably also podcast, but definitely real TV, and you should check them out. They're dope as hell. The people making that are great, and they're doing some revolutionary, groundbreaking stuff. Yeah, that's it for me.
Marissa.
Hi, folks. I have been and am still Marissa, the most critical of kittens, who goes by Critical Kitten, with a variety of punctuation here and there on the internet, including the sunsetting Twitter, formerly known as, or X, formerly known as Twitter, whichever way those things go, Blue Sky, Instagram, etc. I'm an editor of books, TTRPGs, and video games, so if you have one of those and need an editorial eye, check out my work at www.marissacords.com. I have a little fun plug this time, which is that Onyx Path Publishing is creating a new game called The World Below, which is an OSR-style game about what if some great calamity happened in the world above and everybody was forced underground, and civilizations have been building there. And can you survive in such an environment? The World Below looks at that. There is a Kickstarter at this moment, which is about to go live, that the folks at Onyx Path Publishing are doing, but in fact, yours truly has been a part of the first actual play of this yet unreleased system. So go over and check on Queen's Court Games. By the time you see this, that will probably be live, or at least on their backlog. It's a little 3-episode sort of jaunt through the world below to the farthest gate. It's a really cool system, very high lethality, much more crunchy, I think, than I was expecting, but a fabulous cast of people and a really fun system to play.
Awesome. I am going to go ahead and plug and shout out a couple things. So, Bill, my mind is as empty as it can be. I kind of exhausted myself here. Who does our title track again?
Martina De Silva.
Martina
De Silva. Actually, she has a brand new album out now. I don't know when you're watching this, but let me look up her. Well, yeah, she's got a brand new album out. She's been releasing. Look, she actually. Let me talk about Martina De Silva for a minute. She started recording in her own apartment during the pandemic, and like started kind of like a new renaissance of her. She's put out so many albums with so many really talented jazz artists. Martina De Silva, check them out.
Yeah, I was gonna say so. Perfect, wonderful, fantastic musician. She and was it Daniel Shimolinski? are responsible for our title track. All of our background tracks are done by Kai Engel, who was kind enough to put all of these tracks into the Creative Commons so we could use them. So just want to go ahead and shout out them. I also want to shout out Angel Citadel, Josh and Joanne, who are responsible for doing their own Cypher System and Invisible Sun content. And especially big shout out to Monte Cook Games as they look to herald the return of the Black Cube on backer kit, so check that out. Pledge for a Black Cube if you want and play the same game that we do, probably in a completely different way because no game is the exact same anywhere. But anyway, all of that is to say, we really have loved doing this entire part, and we're sad to see it come to an end, but we're very excited about doing the next and final part of The Hole in the World. And I really could not have gotten anywhere close to this far if it hadn't been for my wonderful cast. So thank you as a shout out and a plug to Marcy, to Bill, to Hopper, and to Marissa. I'm really looking forward to telling the end of this great story together. But in the meantime, before we do that, please, all of you out there, please take care of yourselves, be well, take care of each other, and may the invisible sun shine on you all. Thank you, and good night.